Welcome to Husker Storm Blog. This is my college football week 3 prediction video. I'm going to review last week and go over some predictions this week to a slate of games that's okay. It's not a great week for college football. But last week was definitely Pac-12's weekend as Nebraska was upset by UCLA, U of A upset Oklahoma State, and Oregon State upset Wisconsin. All those games I missed. ASU beating Illinois, I missed that one too. Mississippi State looked impressive as they shut down Auburn. USC not as impressive as I thought, and they need to improve, especially on defense, if they want to compete for a national title. Iowa cannot get the ball over in the freaking end zone as they only scored 6 against Iowa State. Stanford is back, no question about that. Florida and Georgia welcomed A&M and Missouri to the SEC with comeback losses. I got my first perfect prediction. Virginia beat Penn State 17-16. And how about Miami? They are awful. Kansas State's good, but when you miss that many tackles, it makes a team look a lot better than they actually are. Trust me, Kansas State might get 9 wins this year. They could be looking at 10. Maybe they win the Big 12. They've looked impressive so far. Miami's looked terrible so far. Michigan escaped upset by Air Force. Got to work on that run D. And Northwestern, they beat Vanderbilt. I did not see that coming. I thought Vanderbilt was better than them, but Northwestern looks like they're 2-0. And if you look at Northwestern's schedule, this is a team to watch. I don't think they're going to win the Legends, but they could be in the race because their next 5 games are pretty easy. They got Boston College. Can't sleep on them, but come on, you got to take care of business there. I believe they play Minnesota, Purdue, and Illinois. Not Purdue. So it's Minnesota, Indiana, I believe Iowa. Their next 5 games are winnable. And then they also play an FCS school. So there's no question they could be 7-0 when they go into the game against Nebraska, which is a winnable game considering they beat Nebraska on the road last year. So last week I went 9-8. Not a great week. My spread difference was 13 points. So that needs to improve, as it was definitely digressed from the previous week where I went 8-1, but I did get a perfect prediction. So my 3 takeaways from last week: the Big sucks, obviously. You can't lose every single game against a conference. They went out west, and they went 0-2, 0-3. Against Pac-12 teams. 2 of their ranked teams getting upset by unranked teams. So this is a down year for the Big Ten, and they needed to get themselves back into a national title contention. The only team they have left really is Michigan State, which we'll see if that holds up after this weekend as they play Notre Dame. You can't go 0-6. They had a slate of 6 games, all on the road, and they went 0-6. 6-6 on the week, and they lost their 6 big ones. So you can't do that, and the conference power rankings look like SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, ACC. Now it's going to be tough for the Big 10 to fall behind the ACC, but they could. With Wisconsin, my new prediction for Wisconsin is they'll be lucky to get 8 wins this year. I'm looking at 7, but they'll be lucky to get 8. And Purdue looks like the favorite to me to win the leaders. So whoever wins the Legends going to the Rose Bowl. Because Purdue doesn't have the offense now that Robert Marve pulled his ACL. Because Turbush is not Marve. I've always liked Marve over Turbush, and we saw last week what Marve could do, and played pretty well against Notre Dame. So My other takeaway from this one was, the Pac-12 has depth. What a surprise. U of A, Rich Rod's put their offense back on fire. Matt Scott looks like a great quarterback. Oregon State, they finally reminded that Corvallis is a tough place to play, and their defense showed up against Wisconsin. What a terrible offensive line. Also, Stanford got back on track. Well, despite losses from Washington and Colorado, the Pac-12 is slowly coming back, and that was a great week for them, and they look strong. Sorry about that, stupid dogs. There could be some BCS in store this year. Now that you see the Pac-12 with some depth, Oregon and USC could have trouble going 12-0 through that conference. I'm not sure where their road games lie against teams like U of A or Arizona State, but USC could have some trouble. They haven't looked very impressive. Week 1 they were, but week 2 against Syracuse, you can't struggle like that. The SEC is sure to have a team come out with at least a loss. The Big 12, they've got loads of depth too. And the ACC, that might be the only place we got an undefeated team in Florida State. Because the only team, there could be 2 one-loss teams that come out of there, like Clemson or Virginia Tech or Florida State, that all have 1 loss. Only 2 of them can have 1 loss because they all play each other, and then they're gonna have to play each other again in Virginia Tech versus Clemson or Florida State, whoever wins that side. But on Nebraska, the defense has got to improve. Yet again, the defense looked slow in the front 7, unable to make tackles. I think it's the scheme that puts loads of pressure on the defensive line. You're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, who was limping for at least a quarter in that game. And we still couldn't tackle him. So I think it's time to put out the young ones. I want to see David Santos and Zaire Anderson. And now, I've heard rumors that the 3-4 could be coming in. The way they've been recruiting the last 2 years, I think it's coming, no question. Loads of linebackers coming in. And this year they recruited Natter and LeCouture. I can't even pronounce his name. But they're both defensive end / linebacker hybrids in high school right now. Natter's got more of a build that he can actually play linebacker. LeCouture's he's a pretty big. He's like 270, so he's a big kid. I don't see him playing the joker position. But I think if Nebraska were to pull that out this year, that formation or personnel grouping, Eric Martin would thrive as a joker. He's a great pass rusher, and he can get back in cover and play pretty decent. And I think he'd be great in that formation, without question. So if they could pull that out and get some time for Valentine and Curry down as that nose tackle, it might help this defense. We'll see. But the secondary was decent. They weren't overly impressive, but they did their job. They had some missed tackles. There's about 20 missed tackles in this game, and about a dozen of those were missed tackles in the backfield. They had 11 tackles for loss in the backfield, but they could have had, 20. So that's got to improve. But looking at next week, they take on Arkansas State, and don't expect loads of defense in this one, especially from Nebraska. But I think T-Magic's going to carry this team. He's going to get over 100 yards rushing, maybe pass for 300. He'll get in the end zone a couple times. This game could be like Fresno State, could be like Ball State, could be like South Dakota State, but we'll see. Uh, I think Team Magic picks up the defense's lackluster performance. The offense gets 600 yards. Nebraska runs away with this one in the third quarter. Nebraska scores 62. Arkansas State scores 37. Braylon Hurd shows off his speed, breaks a big run, has a huge day, and Nebraska rushes over 300 yards, and they get the win 62-37. Cal at Ohio State. Cal's been awful so far this year. Braxton Miller's been great. He'll put up 350 yards of offense on the pretty pathetic Cal Bears defense. Buckeyes crush the Bears 55-16. Bama at Arkansas. Originally, this was going to be their first test, but after Arkansas lost to University of Louisiana Monroe, and now that Tyler Wilson is questionable for this one with a concussion in last week's game, even if he is, back and healthy, he's still going to get hit by Alabama, just like last year. His offensive line allowed him to get hit by Louisiana Monroe. They thought that defensive line was good. Wait till they face this defensive line. So I actually, they had the ability, because they had Niles Davis and Tyler Wilson. They had the ability to be balanced. They haven't been very impressive so far, both on offense and defense this year. And I think A.J. McCarron has a huge day. The defense clamps down on the Razorbacks, and they win this one easy, 35-13. Could be worse. We'll see. Wake Forest at Florida State. Last year, Florida State lost this one. They were at Wake Forest last year. And you can't lose this one against the Demon Deacons this year. But I think E.J. Manuel reaffirms that he is a Heisman contender. And the Seminoles take this one easy, 42-15. North Carolina at Louisville. Look for Teddy Bridgewater to lead the way. And the Cardinals are going to continue to climb the polls as they win this one 30-24. Florida at Tennessee. We saw what Florida did last week against A&M. And they're going to face a much better offense in Tyler Bray. And this Tennessee Vols team looks pretty good so far. And I think the Vols are going to take this one. They are at home. And they're going to continue to climb in the polls. And potentially, them and Georgia could decide who wins the East in the SEC, as Tennessee wins this one 23-17. USC at Stanford. The only way Stanford stays in this one is if their defense can play well. But, Andrew Luck's not here, so he won't be able to save them. Barkley's going to continue to impress. Lee and Woods are going to have a nice day. 35-20. Trojans win. Notre Dame at Michigan State. This game's always good, besides last year, which Michigan State got thumped. I expect this one to be good again, but the Spartans' defense is just too good. Too good. And watch, Le'Veon Bell is going to get the ball 40 times. Whether he gets 30 rushes or 40 rushes, we'll see. He's going to get the ball a bunch, though. He's going to touch the ball through the passing game. He's going to lead the way, and the defense is going to shut down Notre Dame 20-13. Michigan State. ASU at Missouri. After ASU looked pretty impressive against the Illini. Now the Illini were without Nathan Shieldhouse, but still, you put up 45. Too bad, this ASU team doesn't quite have the ability to compete against an SEC team on the road. Now, Missouri isn't really an SEC team yet. They haven't, recruited as an SEC team. But the Tigers are a lot better than the Sun Devils. And last year was a good game, a good shootout, went to overtime. This year, I don't think so. 38-24. Tigers take care of business. Texas at Ole Miss. This is really the only game that Texas could be tested in their non-conference. And I think the Rebels are going to give them a little bit of a scare for most of the game. But Texas pulls this one out 24-16. Virginia at Georgia Tech. I don't think the Cavaliers are going to be able to get up for this one. And Georgia Tech's going to use their great triple option run game. Take care of business, 28-17. Navy at Penn State. Penn State cannot afford to start off 0-3 under the O'Brien era. I think they do good enough job shutting down the triple option against Navy, and they get their offense going. 27-16, the Nittany Lions win a game. We saw what University of Northern Iowa did against Wisconsin. We saw that they defeated Iowa a couple years back. Not to mention Iowa's offense needs to wake up, learn how to get in the end zone, let alone, even the red zone. I think Iowa sneaks this one out. It's going to be close. They take this one 23-13. BYU at Utah. Going into this year, this game looked like a good game between potentially two top 25 teams. But BYU has looked ridiculously good. That's why they're ranked. And Utah is without Jordan Wynn forever. So I think BYU is going to continue rising, take care of business, defeat the Utes in Utah, or BYU is in Utah, but defeat the Utes on the road, 28-20. BYU continues to climb. So that's it for this week. That's my predictions. Check back next week as review week 3 and look forward to week 4. Hopefully a better slate of games next week for me to predict. But thanks for watching. Go Big Red.